BrowserStack began in 2011 with a bold vision to simplify testing for development teams everywhere. Founded by Ritesh Arora and Nakul Aggarwal, it has grown into the world's leading cloud testing platform. From launching automated testing in 2013 to building a cutting-edge AI-powered test platform today, BrowserStack has consistently innovated to stay ahead of developers and QA's needs. We now enable over 1 billion tests annually, with 7 million users across 135-plus countries and 700-plus engineers, driving AI innovation across 30-plus testing products by 2026. Trusted by 50,000-plus customers, including nearly every Fortune 500 company, BrowserStack powers testing across industries like technology, finance, retail, automotive, and more. BrowserStack, the comprehensive test platform.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to day 2 of Breakpoint 2025. I've been hearing so many good things about day 1. Heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you for being here. Your energy, curiosity, engagement made day 1 truly epic. The conversations that you folks sparked, the questions that you folks asked, and the insights that you shared brought life to the event. And we couldn't be more grateful. Yesterday, we explored how AI is reshaping the landscape of testing, accelerating delivery, amplifying human creativity, and raising the bar of quality across the board. I got some time to have 3 key takeaways from keynote. Number 1, AI isn't replacing people, it's empowering them. Most impactful AI tools are helping developers, testers to move faster, automate repetitive tasks, and surface insights while keeping human firmly at the center of innovation and decision making. Number 2, quality at speed is the new standard. AI isn't just about efficiency anymore. It's about helping teams release faster without compromising on performance, accessibility, or user experience. Companies that get this right are raising the bar across the industry. Number 3, early adopters are pulling ahead. Teams have already started integrating AI into their testing and release pipeline, hence reducing cycle time, improving test coverage, and freeing up valuable time to focus on the work that truly matters. From day 1 to today, we are building on the momentum with a sharp focus on accessibility and automation, 2 essential pillars for creating inclusive, scalable, and high-quality digital experiences. And there are plenty of things happening throughout the day. To help you engage even more, join us in the live chat, ask questions, share insights, connect with your peer. After all, we are here to learn. Visit our virtual booths to explore tools, speak directly to our product teams, and access exclusive content. Take part in live contests and challenges. We have some exciting giveaways for the winners throughout the day. And finally, don't miss our AMA sessions with our product experts. This is your chance to go behind the scene and get your questions answered. And later today, we'll shine a spotlight on our incredible BrowserStack Meetup chapter leaders, the community of passionate builders who are sparking conversation, sharing knowledge, and bringing developers together around the world. We are proud to recognize their impact in this special celebration session. We have an incredible day ahead filled with practical learnings, fresh perspectives, and opportunities to connect. Let's keep the momentum going and make BrowserStack Breakpoint 2025 one to remember. With this, allow me to introduce you to Nakul Aggarwal. Nakul is the co-founder CTO of BrowserStack, basically the tech brain behind all the products at BrowserStack. Nakul will be sharing his insights as part of keynote on day 2. Over to you, Nakul.
Thank you, Dhimil. And it's amazing to be here with all of you at Breakpoint 2025. The energy, the conversations, and the excitement are truly incredible. Thank you for being here and for being part of this journey with us. Yesterday was all about AI, and what a day it was. The keynote gave us a glimpse into how AI is reshaping the world, including testing. And it's an exciting future. Today, I want to shift the focus. Today is about the foundations that make world-class quality possible. We will dive into automation, accessibility, and sneak peek into how we have built a test platform designed to solve your testing challenges. Whether you are scaling automation, making experiences more inclusive, or managing a complex tool stack, we have been building with one goal in mind: to make testing faster, smarter, and easier for you. I'm excited to show you what we have built and where we are heading next. So let's get started. Before we dive in, I would like to briefly introduce BrowserStack and the amazing community we serve. Today, over 50,000 customers trust us, including many Fortune 500 companies across industries like tech, finance, retail, and healthcare. This shows we are not just a tool, we are a critical part of quality and innovation engine for the world's leading organizations. And that's thanks to all of you, the testers, the developers, and the leaders who push us to do better every day. Quickly talking about our journey as well, BrowserStack was founded in 2011 to solve a major problem testing on IE, Internet Explorer browser, which was everywhere but a nightmare to work with. Our solution was simple: put a real IE browser in the cloud for everyone to test it, to use it, to access from anywhere and anytime. By 2015, we saw that IE was fading and mobile was becoming the new IE. The next big challenge was testing on mobile devices. The fragmentation of iOS operating system and Android operating system, the devices, viewports, you have seen it enough. We expanded to real device cloud. We launched our app testing products to help teams deliver quality mobile experiences. And 2022, after listening to you, working closely with our customers, we realized there was still a major pain point in testing. That's when the vision of BrowserStack test platform was born. We wanted to think bigger and create a comprehensive solution for every job in testing, making it easier, smarter, and possibly fun. And in 2023, after initial being skeptical about AI, we saw firsthand how it can solve real challenges. And I was personally involved with it. And yesterday, obviously, Ritesh spoke about how we are embracing AI to future-proof the world of testing. And it became clear AI is not just a fad. It's going to change everything. And of course, testing as well. So to summarize our journey from solving one browser problem in 2011 to building a test platform today and preparing for an AI-powered future, we are just getting started. Why quality? Because quality teams are the gatekeepers of best customer experiences. Every amazing product experience to deliver is built on the foundation of high quality testing. And today, testing has evolved to become a key enabler of quality, not just a checkpoint and at the end of the release. Modern digital experiences are not judged only by their functionality anymore. Customers expect them to perform flawlessly, to be intuitive to use, fast, accessible to all, and secure, of course. Miss on even one of these expectations and you risk losing the trust. That's why good test coverage is critical to shipping reliable and delightful software. And here's the reality. While expectations are growing, timelines are shrinking. Everyone wants to release fast. Everyone wants to test more, whether it's for accessibility, performance, security, or other ways as well. At the same time, Agile, DevOps, and modern engineering practices are pushing for smaller cycle times and faster releases. Testing simply cannot become a bottleneck. Testing must move faster without compromising quality. But this all yet comes with the DevOps stacks, right? When we look inside most companies, when we work closely with our customers, what do we see? That most organizations have disconnecting tools from multiple vendors, whether it's in-house setup using open source or just using external tools. One tool for functional testing, another for accessibility, a different one for performance, and all bunched together to make it a DevOps mesh, right? Separate system, and finally, of course, separate systems for tracking builds, bugs, and deployments. On the surface, this might seem manageable because all of us are used to these tools, but it comes with a hidden cost, something we are calling as DevOps tax, coined by GitLab, of course. Right? You pay this tax in the form of hidden integration cost, reduced developer productivity, higher licensing fees, and duplicate efforts across teams where same setups are being used differently by different teams, and of course, fragmentation as well. And this fragmentation leads to other problems too. In many large enterprises, different teams reinvent the wheel, building their own automation frameworks, their own reporting tools, their own dashboards, leading to a lack of standardization, a lack of testing best practices, and missed opportunities for excellence. And critically, because testing is siloed across many tools, test data itself becomes fragmented. Without unified connected test data, it's incredibly hard to unlock the real power of AI. So what is needed of the R is we need testing to be comprehensive, seamless, and fast. Because faster time to market demands frequent releases. Testing must keep up and even accelerate DevOps, not slow it down. We need faster testing cycles, smarter integrations, a more unified approach to quality. And that's exactly the problem we are setting out to solve, introducing BrowserStack Test Platform as a solution. In fact, this is what we are exactly solving for. How can we enable you to build the best test stack for your teams? Comprehensive, one platform for all your testing needs. First, comprehensiveness. When we say comprehensive, we mean it in every sense. Whether you're doing manual testing or you're testing into automation, whether you're a developer, a QA engineer, or a citizen tester just starting out. Whether you are focused on functional testing today or looking to expand into accessibility, visual testing, performance, and so on and forth. No matter your testing maturity or your team's makeup, we want you to have the right tools to get your job done, like I said earlier, easier, better, and faster. Okay? And as your need grows and you evolve from running tests on 10 browsers to 100 to 1000, you should be able to scale seamlessly. Right? Reduce your build times from hours to minutes and even down to seconds in the future. And so our goal is to enable every genre of testing at every scale without friction. Second, open and integrated. The second principle is openness and integration. One of the clearest pieces of feedback we heard when we started building the test platform was, don't lock us in. We don't want a closed system. We want to pick the best product for the job without buying the whole suite. And we listen. Our platform is designed to be open. You can adopt each tool independently based on what you need. You don't have to commit to an entire platform just to use a specific product. And when you use multiple BrowserStack tools together, they talk nicely to each other. Data flows seamlessly across the products to give a more unified view of the quality. And the most important is integration deeply within your existing ecosystem. Now, I think the sweet spot you guys have to figure between finding the best for the tools and the platform, because you obviously want to optimize for DevOps stacks. But whether you want to use open source tools like Selenium, Playwright, and others, you should be able to get the job done in the easiest way possible. You get the flexibility to choose without sacrificing the power of integration. And third, AI that actually works. Faster, smarter testing with AI. When we launched our first AI feature last year, we knew it wasn't enough to just have the AI features for the sake of it. We wanted AI that actually works consistently, reliably, and at scale. So instead of rushing into adding a lot more AI agents, we focused on making the existing ones smarter and more accurate. Our first version had about 55% accuracy, internal release. And today it's consistently around 90% across a broad set of production users and the use cases. And it's not just about accuracy, it's about performance too. What used to take tens of minutes now takes just 2 to 3 minutes with AI. And that's the real acceleration in your testing cycles. So comprehensive, open integrated, AI that actually works, that's the BrowserStack Test Platform. All right, so let's dive into BrowserStack Test Platform. So this is how I like to break it down. The first part of the platform covers your functional testing needs. Manual testing with live and app live, automated testing at scale with automate, app automate, and automate turbo scale, and the low code testing for teams earlier in their automation journey, where you can record your tests, write them in English, and even export them into your automation test suites. Scanners for the teams who needs to validate large number of pages quickly and consistently. This ensures we serve every type of team, whether you are just starting with manual testing or you're running massive automate test suites, and all part of type of applications as well. The second part of the platform goes beyond basic functionalities, which is Perceive for visual testing, accessibility testing to ensure your apps work for everyone, and the performance testing, both client-side performance and load testing. And of course, AI application testing. We are building new products for evaluating AI-driven apps. Enterprise package app testing, starting with Salesforce, because today digital experiences aren't just about working. They are about working fast, looking great, and being accessible to everyone. And the third part of the platform focuses on testing workflows, test management, plan, manage, and track your testing work, test reporting and analytics, deep insights into your automation runs, helping you debug faster, and the quality engineering insights, connecting your testing data back to the business value. And this is where we move beyond running tests into understanding and improving quality continuously. And on top of that, we are building a testing toolkit, a set of 12 to 15 plus handy utilities to help testers and developers across their daily workflows. Things like bug filing, responsive testing tools, visual overlays, cookies and cache managers, and much more. Now, these tools are designed to be used daily, not just once in a while, to make everyday testing smoother. And across every part of the platform, we are infusing AI agents, helping you generate, run, and maintain tests faster, making debugging and fixing issues much faster, and overall supercharging your testing speed and efficiency. Every product is being augmented with these AI capabilities, not just as an add-on, but as a core part of the experience. So our vision is simple but ambitious: to build the world's most flexible, powerful, and user-centric testing platform. One that meets you where you are, grows with your needs, and empowers every team to ship quality software faster. A comprehensive, open, AI-powered foundation for the quality at speed. We build it for our community, and with your feedback, we will keep making it better. Let's look at what powers BrowserStack Test Platform. These are best-of-breed products fueling the platform from behind the scene. Let's start with the foundation, Live and Automate. Today, BrowserStack is the industry leader in cross-browser and real device testing. We run the world's most advanced and biggest real device cloud with thousands of real devices and browsers, ready for you to test on instantly. Whether you are doing it manual testing on Live or running massive automation test suites on Automate, you can rely on BrowserStack to deliver the scale, reliability, and performance your teams need. When it comes to infrastructure, we set the benchmark and we continue to raise it. Next up, visual testing with Percy. Modern digital experiences aren't just about working, they need to look perfect across every device and browser. That's where Percy's powerful visual AI comes in. Every month, Percy analyzes over 100 million screenshots, helping teams catch visual regressions before customers ever see them. When you need visual perfection at scale, Percy is your go-to solution. Not every team starts with a deep automation expertise, and that's okay. With our low-code automation tools, over 1,000 plus users, leading brands like Toyota, GM, Royal Caribbean are already using low-code automation to realize faster automation ROI, are already saving hours of manual testing effort every week. You can write tests in plain English, record them, and even export them into full automation suites, accelerating your journey from manual to automation testing. We are making automation accessible for every team, not just the experts. Accessibility is non-negotiable today, and we take it seriously. Our accessibility testing products is powered by one of the most advanced tool engines in the industry, delivering best-in-class automation coverage. If you're serious about building experiences for all your users, we help you make it faster, easier, and more accurate than ever before. Managing testing work shouldn't be a bottleneck. Today, over 500 companies have already migrated to our test management product. With test management, planning, tracking, and managing your testing becomes simpler, faster, and far more insightful. And finally, making sense of all of your test automation data. Our test reporting and analytics product operates at incredible scale, handling millions of builds already, giving engineering teams deep insights into debug faster and ship better. Because running tests is important, but understanding them is what drives real value improvement. And across products, we are embedding AI to supercharge your workflows. Faster test generation, smarter debugging, shorter release cycles, connected toolchain experience. And here's fundamentally with something believe at BrowserStack. The sum of the parts is greater than the parts. Yes, each of our products is powerful on its own, but when it brings them together, that's the real magic happens. Let me show you how. We have built our platform to solve the use cases across testing lifecycle, from planning and creation, execution to validation. Stage 1, test planning and creation. It all starts with the test management, where team plan, manages, and tracks their testing efforts. Then we move into low-code automation, helping teams create tests faster, whether you are a seasoned engineer or just getting started. And for teams already deep into automation, our BrowserStack SDK makes it seamless to integrate and run tests using your preferred frameworks. Then we move to test execution. This is where the execution meets scale. Whether you're using Automate for robust test automation, Perceive for pixel-perfect visual testing, or accessibility products to ensure inclusive digital experiences, we have got you covered. And finally, the stage 3, test validation. Once you test runs, it's about understanding what happened and why. And that's where test reporting analytics comes in, giving you deep insights into your test runs, helping you debug faster, and improving quality continuously. And one of the important pieces I have been emphasizing is openness, which is by design. So our platform doesn't operate in a silo. We play exceptionally well with open source tools, including popular test automation frameworks and the plethora of CI/CD platforms. Whether you're using Selenium, Playwright, Cypress, or running your pipeline in Jenkins, GitHub Actions, or GitLab, we integrate right into your existing ecosystem. And here, where it all comes really together. All of these products across planning, execution, and validation are tightly integrated. You get a consistent experience across the board, a uniform workflow that just flows, and a unified data store that gives you complete visibility and context. And you know the best part? The entire tool chain is integrated out of the box. Zero setup, no configuration, no stitching together across different tools. That means no friction in onboarding new teams, no DevOps techs managing disjoint systems, and yet you get the speed, simplicity, and a better developer experience right from day one. Let's talk through some examples. How does the live and accessibility works together, right? Say you are doing cross-browser testing in live, right there, without switching tabs or windows or tools, you can trigger accessibility insights. No need to schedule separate scans. No need to jump into another product. It's just right there where you are already working. Second example, Automate plus test reporting analytics. You are running Automate test in BrowserStack Automate at scale. Now imagine as tests run, you are getting real-time analytics, debugging insights, and performance signals from test reporting. You know why your tests are becoming slow, why the tests are flaky. You're not waiting for reports. You're not praising logs manually. You are debugging while executing all in one flow. And that's just the two examples I'm talking about. We are continuing to build more cross-product workflows across the platform. Test management and test reporting analytics, test management and low-code automation, Automate and visual testing, and many more. And here are some of the outcomes we are seeing across our customers. Faster testing, greater productivity, accelerated test cycles, shorter feedback loops, more shipped code, less waiting, scalable, reliable test automation, built-in infra, analytics, orchestration, self-healing, so you can automate with confidence at scale. And last, the AI that supercharges testing. AI agents across the lifecycle to create, run, fix, and optimize tests faster than ever. And all of this works with actionable insights at the horizontal layer, not just the test runs. See what's broken and why across this full journey. And of course, the end-to-end test coverage. One platform for all your testing types, functional, visual, accessibility, and performance with AI as well. This all comes with tool consolidation, lower cost, fewer tools, unified workflows, lower spends, and higher standards. So far, we have seen how the BrowserStack test platform powers testing across the lifecycle. Now let's zoom in on the topic that's close to our hearts, accessibility. And in fact, that's the theme for today. Why accessibility matters. Accessibility is no longer just a nice to have. It's about inclusive customer experiences, and increasingly, it's about compliance. Years ago, we had to solve this firsthand. One of our enterprise customers required us to be accessibility compliant. That meant building software that met rigorous accessibility standards. And when we looked around, the tools available were fragmented, the process was manual and painful, and there was no single solution to meet our needs. At the same time, global conversations were heating up, EAA deadlines, ADA requirements, and more. And it became clear our customers were in the same boat. And that's when we got to work. We realized this wasn't just our problem, it was an industry gap. That's when BrowserStack's journey to build accessibility as a product line began. And today we are here to share that we have built not just for ourselves, but for every business trying to be inclusive, compliant, and future ready. To show how BrowserStack makes it easier for teams to meet 10 plus global accessibility regulations, like I said, including ADA, EA, and more, I would like to invite Arvind Ganesan on stage. Arvind, over to you.
Thank you, Nakul. I'm super excited to be here, and it's so great to see more than 10,000 attendees for our Breakpoint 2025. I and my team are on a journey to build more than just a product. We are working closely with thousands of our customers to create a culture where we are all driving change to be more inclusive, and BrowserStack accessibility is at the forefront of that. To understand why we are so bullish on accessibility, let's look at a few numbers. 1 in 4 adults lives with some kind of disability. That's over 1.3 billion people around the world who rely on accessible experiences to navigate life online. And remember that accessibility isn't just about permanent disabilities. It can be situational too. Maybe your hands are full. Maybe you're in a loud environment and can't hear the audio. Maybe your screen is cracked or the lighting is bad. When we design for accessibility, we are not just building for a small group, we are building for everyone. And yet, the web is falling short. To understand the situation, consider this. There are over 51 million accessibility errors on just the top 1 million websites in the world. That's 51 million barriers, doors slammed shut for someone who has a visual, auditory, motor, or cognitive impairment. For a disabled user, this means the internet, a place meant to be open and empowering, is often not inclusive. It means missing out on jobs, education, news, shopping, and social connections. Not because they can't, but because we simply haven't built it for them. So the question isn't just how do we become accessible, it's how can we afford not to be. Let's take a closer look at how the disabled community is still being overlooked online. Here are some constructed examples of experiences you will very commonly find online. Think about the most common ways of collecting information, forms and input fields. For someone with visual impairment, a poorly labeled form with placeholders means they can't understand where to input the information because these aren't screen reader compatible. This sort of form not only impacts users with visual impairments, but also users with cognitive impairments who can't remember which field is for what purpose. Let's look at another example. Imagine someone with a medical condition like glaucoma or cataract or permanent visual impairments, particularly those with low vision or partial blindness. To view web content, they often need to zoom into a website to almost 200% or more to make the content legible. But most web experiences break at 200% zoom. This scenario is also an example of how visually impaired users can't use screen readers if important text like discounts, offers, etc. is embedded in an image because screen readers can't read text in images. Users with cognitive impairment need consistent navigation. Here, the links are labeled differently, bus tickets and buses, which makes recall especially challenging for users with cognitive impairments. Podcasts and other audio-only formats are becoming increasingly popular. Imagine everyone around you talking about a fantastic podcast episode and you have no way to join the conversation. That's what's happening here for users with auditory impairments. By providing a simple text transcript, you can turn this exclusion into inclusion. When we design interactions that solely rely on dragging, such as a price filter, it can be challenging and even impossible for users with motor impairments. That's why it's important to offer alternatives like manual input fields or keyboard navigation. But with so many seemingly obvious examples, why are teams struggling with accessibility today? While these are strong examples of how digital accessibility is broken today, let's answer why. No software team intentionally builds poor experiences. It's mostly because of a lack of awareness and a lack of sufficient technology assistance. While attempting to make the web accessible to 1.3 billion people worldwide, accessibility testing is often hindered by manual, time-consuming tasks. This includes tasks such as scanning one page at a time, identifying issues, deduplicating findings, and compiling reports. Additionally, incorporating accessibility checks into an automated test suite can be a cumbersome process. This web of grunt work results in broken digital experiences. This damages the reputation of the customer-focused brands and increases the risk of compliance with accessibility regulations. Missing accessibility issues puts your business at risk, not just because of legal non-compliance, but also of damaging your reputation, losing customer trust, and excluding millions of users. Building with accessibility in mind isn't just the right thing to do, it's smart business. In fact, companies have seen impressive business gains by building with accessibility in mind. There are a huge number of examples online of how companies have benefited by building with accessibility in mind. In fact, one of our customers in the travel and logistics space saw a huge improvement in the overall engagement across all their user segments when they cleaned up and optimized their user journeys for screen readers. Well, this is just one example. We have been seeing so many more. Clearly, prioritizing accessibility has business gains like driving growth and broadening market reach. These examples and the increasing recognition of web accessibility is really encouraging. In fact, this year is a year of compliance where a lot of regulations kick in. But let's remember, accessibility isn't just about regulatory compliance, it's about the people. We believe everyone deserves equal access to the internet, and that's why we focus on making it easier for everyone to build inclusive experiences. WCAG, or the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, provides the guidelines, but empathy drives the goal to build for everyone. To help you achieve the goal of building for everyone, BrowserStack offers an end-to-end accessibility suite. We say end-to-end because you can use BrowserStack accessibility to design, build, and monitor the digital experiences you own in an automated way. To become accessible, you need to adhere to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines of the WCAG. BrowserStack's powerful Spectra rule engine helps you do precisely that. It provides best-in-industry automated issue detection so that we can help you become inclusive without the grunt work. Imagine a checkout flow. Today, a tester has to spend hundreds of hours analyzing multiple pages, multiple states, and multiple components to find all the accessibility issues. This entire workflow can now be analyzed in seconds using Spectra, which provides one single deduplicated accessibility report for your entire checkout flow. Not just that, we understand that software development is a continuous process and changes keep happening in workflows. These changes should not stop you from becoming accessible. Simply embed Spectra into your automated builds with a single line of code and your accessibility issues are taken care of. But why stop in a single build? There are often hundreds of developers working on a single code base, constantly pushing changes in various environments. That's a lot of scope for accessibility issues to creep into your live websites or apps. You can monitor the live accessibility health of your entire digital asset by routinely running Spectra scanners. It is equally important to test your website within screen readers to ensure inclusion for all. With BrowserStack, you can forget the challenges of manual setup and maintenance of real devices. You can easily test screen readers such as VoiceOver, NVDA, and TalkBack on real devices. Last, but definitely not the least, ever heard of cliches like prevention is better than cure or shift left for the win? With our Figma design plugin, you can prevent up to 40% of accessibility issues even before they are introduced. That's as shift left as it gets. Now that you have the ability to shift left with Design tool, check accessibility journeys in the extreme right using screen readers, and do everything in the middle in an automated way, building with accessibility in mind shouldn't seem like grunt work anymore. In fact, at BrowserStack, we use the accessibility suite in exactly this manner and have seen massive gains in our accessibility health score. And that is the journey we are sharing with all our customers. If you would like to know more about how we are achieving our accessibility journey or how our customers are achieving their accessibility journeys, do reach out. But let's ensure to make the internet accessible for all. On that note, moving on to our next segment, where I'm super excited to host a fireside chat with a very special guest. Hey folks, please join me in welcoming Léonie Watson. Léonie is a true leader in the accessibility space, director at Tetralogical, chair of the W3C board of directors, and someone who spent decades advocating for a more inclusive web. Léonie, it's such a pleasure to have you with us. I know your schedule is packed, so thank you so much for making the time to join this conversation.
You're very welcome. It's great to be here, Arvind. Thank you.
Absolutely. In fact, there's so much happening in the accessibility space, especially around shifting left, building with accessibility in mind, and so many other topics. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your perspective on what's changing, what still needs work, and what gives you hope. So let's begin.
Sounds good.
Awesome. My first question, and I'll start in a very easy way. 1.3 billion people in this world live with some form of disability. What does digital accessibility mean for businesses, especially in terms of reaching the 1.3 billion folks and in terms of building for everyone?
I think the short answer to that is more of everything you want as a business owner. If your business is to share information and knowledge, you do that to a lot more people. If your business model is to bring in revenue and income, you expand your market to many more people. But I think the interesting thing about that number, 1.3 billion, is that it's almost certainly an underestimate. We tend to talk about numbers of people with disabilities in terms of those disabilities we monitor, people like myself who are blind, people who use a wheelchair, or who have some other recognized and diagnosed condition, if you like. Whereas we know the truth of the matter is that as we get older, our eyesight, our hearing gets worse, and for many people that can become essentially a disability. There are lots of neurodivergent conditions that don't necessarily get included in those figures. So 1.3 billion is about 25% of the global population at the moment, but the number of people with disabilities is probably much, much higher than that.
Absolutely. Permanent, temporary, and impairments that come in as we age.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's I believe an underestimated number. And your point is businesses actually can reach so much more than these 1.3 billion for the goal that they have.
Absolutely, yes. You can imagine, a meeting with your sales or your marketing team where someone came in and said, hey, I've got an idea for increasing your market share or your market reach by 20, 25%, even 5%. In the world that we live in now, that's not a thing most businesses, most organizations would just go, oh, that's not important. We don't mind that we could be reaching 10, 15% more people than we are already. People don't walk away from ideas like that. And accessibility gives us a huge opportunity for maximizing those markets.
Absolutely. And in that aspect, it's great that we also have some regulations coming into play. In fact, the European Accessibility Act gets enforced in June 2025. The Americans with Disabilities Title II regulations gets enforced in April 2026. What does this mean for businesses in addition to reaching a broader audience?
I think this just puts the legal obligation behind, the business opportunities, the organizational opportunities. You mentioned, the Title II regulations for the ADA. In the US at the moment, legislation, especially around disability, equality, inclusion, accessibility, is somewhat uncertain. And the ADA, because it predates the web, has always been a little uncertain. It's depended on Department of Justice rulings for it to be decreed that it is actually relevant to all products and services on the web. We hope that will continue. The EAA, of course, is applicable in the private sector, but only to certain organizations if you're in digital publishing or TV and video streaming, for example, and a number of others. But essentially what it means is that there's, legal obligations behind, as I said, those business benefits. And for those organizations that maybe don't understand what a good idea it is to reach more people and have more revenue, it never hurts to have a little bit more encouraging, persuasion from the legal side.
Absolutely. But in terms of the persuasion, in your experience, are there specific domains or businesses of certain sizes or any other aspect that might qualify a business to not look at this right away? Or would your recommendation be no, irrespective of where you are, what you do, how big you are, you need to get started right away?
Well, legally speaking, there is no, get out. It doesn't matter whether you're, a 1 or 2 person sized company or, one of the big tech companies. You're legally obliged to do this. We've got to be practical about it. So, the resources and the time and the knowledge that larger companies, even small to medium sized companies, can put into this is very, very different from, say, a small hairdresser in your local town. And there's different sort of approaches as well. Most small businesses, local businesses, they're going to be using platforms that let them build their websites very, very quickly. Or maybe even they don't have business websites of their own. They're using Facebook or other platforms like that to promote their businesses. So they're very, very dependent on, larger companies to do the accessibility work for them so that they can do it when they get a website build product. For everybody else, yes, there is work to do, and you do have that obligation, whether it's a commercial obligation, a legal obligation, or a moral one. Take your pick. But yes, everybody really is obliged to do what they can towards this, and the bigger the company, the more the what kind of gains importance, I think.
Commercial, legal, moral. I like how that's coming together. So basically, you are implying that there are non-monetary costs of not being compliant.
Yes. I mentioned, one of the benefits of getting accessibility right is maximizing your market share. But of course, the flip side of that is if you don't, then you're reducing your market share. If you can imagine a bricks and mortar store, and for some reason best known to the company owners, they put security guards on the door and turned away every 4th person who tried to come into the store to buy something. That's the equivalent of not doing accessibility. You're saying, we don't need that 25% of our market, just go away. And again, which organization would willingly do that? The other risk, I think, if you don't get accessibility right to an organization is your reputation. Nobody wants to be called out for not thinking about all of your audience for people with disabilities. And I've said this, in many times and places before. If you turn away people with disabilities, you're not just turning away those people. You're turning away their friends, their family, everybody they tell on social media that they had a really bad experience or they couldn't use this site. So the ripple effect is actually much wider than you might think. Again, it's not just that 25%. The number's probably a lot bigger than most people realize.
It's interesting that you look at it both. You look at the same aspect both from a cost perspective as well as a returns or a growth perspective, right? In fact, we know a lot of use cases or examples of companies really benefiting from designing for accessibility. In fact, one of our customers in the travel industry saw a huge increase in user engagement and bookings across all segments of users after optimizing their flows for screen readers. So when they did a screen reader test, they realized that their screens are very cluttered. They cleaned it up, they optimized their flows, and that just resulted in an increase in engagement across all segments, irrespective of their impairments, right? So how do you think accessible experiences can help businesses create real business impact, going further into the example you were giving?
I think it's that accessibility, what I need as a screen reader user to be able to use a website or an app is actually what somebody else finds they need for that website or app to just be more usable. So for me, it's important because without that feature, I can't use the product. For somebody else, that same feature just makes it a bit more usable. And I think we can see lots of examples about that. For example, a text description on an image is useful to me because I can't see the image. In fact, it's necessary to me if that image is important. in terms of consuming the content. But for somebody who's maybe on their mobile device in a really bad connectivity area, their browser may just show that text description as text on screen because the image won't load. So for them, it makes it just that bit more usable in that situation or circumstance. And I suspect that's what your travel customer found, and we've certainly seen it with the organizations we work with, is that something that makes something more accessible for one person will almost always make it more usable for a lot more people.
I'm glad you mentioned those examples, because use cases like text to speech and speech to text are great examples of use cases that have benefited everyone, right? Like I, in fact, completed multiple books using Audibles. And I often see folks around me in airports using videos or seeing videos using captions. Do you have other examples of how accessibility can help everyone, even those without impairments? Just to give more examples to our audience.
Absolutely. I mean, Audible's a great example. It didn't come about because people like myself, prefer often to listen to books rather than read them in Braille or print. But one of the reasons audiobooks came into existence in the first place was because of people like me. Audible took it on as a business, but we've also then seen people are listening to books when they go to the gym, or they're using them to give their children bedtime stories if perhaps they're not very good at reading print themselves. So, that's one really great example. We've seen on social media, Facebook in particular, began putting automatic captions on video content, primarily to help people who are deaf and hard of hearing. But we now know that the overwhelming majority of people who access video content on Facebook on mobile devices are depending on the captions. And I've seen time and time again examples of people using captions. We have a TV series here in the UK called Peaky Blinders, set in the north of England, and the characters in it have a very strong Northern British accent. And I've met people from America and Canada who've we've turned on captions because we can't understand the accents. So we see lots of these examples. And again, it comes back to that point we were just talking about right now. An accessibility feature that's a necessity for some people turns out actually to be quite happily beneficial for an awful lot of other people as well.
Yeah, it's increasing the reach in more ways than it was intended to.
Absolutely. Yep.
So considering we spoke about why get into accessibility, we spoke about the costs of not doing it, we spoke about the benefits of doing it, and we spoke about how building for accessibility in mind also benefits other users, either directly or indirectly. Considering that some of our audience is now convinced that they need to get started if they haven't already gotten started on this, what are some of the common challenges that businesses face while starting their accessibility journeys? Like basically, if you had to pick the top 3 or the most common problems that businesses should target, what would those be?
I think probably the first problem that organizations face is thinking that this can be fixed overnight. We work with a lot of organizations. They say, can you come in and can you help us, get our business to be sustainable for accessibility? And the answer is yes, but that takes time because there's a lot you need to do. And the first thing you really need to do is the second challenge, and that's knowledge within your organization. If you don't have people that have got accessibility knowledge and experience, you'll find it very, very difficult to make progress. You absolutely need to train your teams. That's really important. But if you've got people actually already in your organization that have this experience, that training for the rest of your team will go a lot quicker and embed itself, a lot more firmly in the organization. Because one of the questions, we get often asked is, how can we do this and minimize the kind of time impact, the cost impact? And the only real answer to that is when everybody is doing accessibility as second nature, then you're in the right place. But while everybody's got to go away and say, oh, how do I build this thing in an accessible way? How do I design this in an accessible way? And they've got to go off and do that investigation and that research. It's going to add time. But once you get your team to the point where they know the answers to those questions, in fact, when they don't even have to ask those questions because they're just doing it instinctively, then you've got to a really good place. So yes, understanding that it takes time, making sure that your team have got the skills and knowledge, also making sure that they've got the responsibility and the accountability to do it, because we see a lot of organizations, and they come out with a statement like, we're absolutely going to do this, everybody meet WCAG 2.2 level AA, but they don't give them the breathing space to do it. So you've got to equip your project managers with, the authority, the responsibility to factor it into your project planning. You've got to give people, in development and design, certainly until their skills are up to speed, the time to be able to do it as part of their work. You've got to build in a bit of extra time for QA testing at the end of it.
Right.
But if you don't give people that time and space to do it, then it doesn't matter how good your team are, they're just never going to be able to achieve it. So it's got to come from the top, and the executive layer have really got to mean it.
So that's given that the executive layer is very bought into accessibility and is actively promoting or encouraging it. But what if someone in the mid-level or someone who's not in the executive layer picks up on accessibility and wants to convince their teams and their executive layer to get started? How would they go about it?
Sure. I mean, I think the first answer to that is do as much as you think you can under the radar. If you haven't been given permission, go ahead and do it anyway. If you haven't been given time and space, just see how much you can achieve in the time and space that you have been given, because any progress you make is a good thing, even if it's just, make one thing keyboard accessible. You think how many people you're helping in just fixing that one issue. It's all the people who are sighted and use a keyboard, all the people like me who use an assistive technology that depends on the keyboard, or the people who use speech recognition, which essentially depends on keyboard accessibility. All the developers I know, most of whom who don't use a mouse if they can avoid it, they will use the keyboard because it's quicker. In that one issue, you've just massively helped so many people. So sneak as much as you can, under the radar, and then tell people what a great thing you've done. Broadcast it so people further up the chain of command go, hey, look, you've done this really cool thing. We should be doing this and thinking about this across all our products or the whole of the organization. But to do that, it's going to take a bit more effort.
Right. So it's interesting that you mentioned keyboard navigation, because when we speak to businesses, they quite often think that accessibility testing equals screen reader testing. So in your experience, how much of accessibility today is about screen readers and how much of it is beyond the screen reader?
That's a very good question. I mean, if you look at screen reader users, both those of us who don't see or don't see very well, and people who use them, because they have a form of neurodivergence that means it's easier to listen rather than look at content. Numerically speaking, we're still a very small part of the overall audience. We don't really have numbers to put to that, but it is going to be a comparatively small part of the audience. So if you add up everybody else, all the other kinds of disabilities, there's a whole bunch more testing that needs to be done. There are many more people who are deaf and hard of hearing in the world than there are blind and low vision. So checking for captions and sign language alternatives, nothing to do with the keyboard at all, but it's going to help a vast number of people. To say, we mentioned keyboard accessibility, that goes well beyond people who are screen reader users. And we've got all the things that tap into people with different forms of neurodivergence, keeping things simple and usable, using the right language, all of those things. So yeah, there's so much more to it than screen reader testing, but screen reader testing is important. And I think part of the reason we tend to assume or associate screen reader testing with accessibility is because, to the point you made earlier about shifting left, we've typically said, we'll fix accessibility as developers. It's all developers' responsibility. And of course, for screen reader users, code accessibility is incredibly important. It's vital, in fact. But actually, when you take it and shift it all left, you suddenly realize that actually, it's the interaction design, it's the creative design, it's the colors, it's the look, it's the feel. And then you start to understand how much more there is to it than just the code level accessibility.
But then that implies a lot of ground up thinking, and a lot of teams today already have digital assets in place, either on web or the mobile. How can we make this simplified for them or easy for them to get started?
Probably the best thing to do is go make sure that everything in your design system or your component library is accessible. If your building blocks hit the mark, then everything you take and incorporate into new features or new designs or new products has a much better chance of being accessible when it goes into production. So yep, go back, make sure the building blocks you're using are accessible, focus on that first, and then keep going once you've got those in place.
Is there an 80-20 to this, such that you target a few and you can actually cover a lot of base at one time?
Sure, absolutely. If you can't tackle everything in your design system or your component library at once, absolutely, that's a good approach. Look at the ones that are most widely used across your products, get those fixed up first, roll them out, and then circle back. The trick is don't stop after you've done the most popular ones. Keep going until you get to the end, but also as you're adding new assets or new components to your system, try to make them accessible right from the beginning, so you don't have to do this sort of backtrack and remediate cycle.
So fix the most important flows that you have today, and in addition,
Sure.
the new flows that you're building, build them with accessibility in mind.
Yeah,
and eventually,
absolutely.
somewhere down the line, you'll get to a point where most of the flows, or at least the important ones, have accessibility baked in.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all know that technology, product and service design, it never ends. There is no point when you get to it and go, actually, we've built this website. We're all done. We can go home now. Because new stuff gets added, content changes, everything changes in technology. So there is no end point to accessibility any more than there is in technology in general. But absolutely, cover the most ground at first, and then keep going, keep improving, keep iterating.
That makes a lot of sense. In an off note, in your experience, what's been the most surprising insight you have gained from working directly with users with impairments?
Probably the most surprising occasion, I was working on what is now the gov.uk website. This is just over a decade ago. And we were doing some usability testing with all sorts of people from different disabilities, different access needs, but we included in that people from different socioeconomic backgrounds using older and legacy technologies as well. And was coming across one person who had reading difficulties. But the thing that surprised me was that they didn't understand that the page could scroll. As I say, this was a decade ago, but at that point, the web was still 20 years old at that point, but they didn't understand that they could move more content into view. And as someone who, by that time I'd been using the web since the mid-90s, good grief, how do you not know that the page doesn't, the page moves and you can scroll more content into view.
Right.
And that really just taught me the most valuable lesson is you can't make assumptions. I still meet people now who don't really understand the notion of a browser. They just have this is the internet to them. The word browser doesn't mean anything. It's just the place where I find the internet or the web or Google or Google is the web. So if you're not very familiar with technology, a lot of the words, a lot of the assumptions that we make as people who are familiar just simply don't apply, and you can never underestimate that, I don't think.
So much that we take for granted.
Absolutely. Yeah.
My personal takeaway was when I realized how patient you have to be. Like it requires an enormous amount of patience to be able to navigate these devices, these experiences, and that's something I took for granted for the longest time until I actually met folks and I saw the experiences live, and then for me it was an experience.
Yep, absolutely. And to come back to some of the earlier topics we were talking about, that's one of the things that will drive people away. People have a certain amount of tolerance for how difficult something can be. It generally ties into how much they really want to get that thing done or they want to buy that product. I find the older I get, the far less patient I'm getting. I will give it a try if I want to use a website or an app, but if I can't do it, I'll walk away and go find the competition. So people's patience is very necessary, but only up to a point, and then they'll walk away.
Absolutely. So I think building with accessibility in mind is key, because it's just not about the specific number I gave, but it's about so many more people who are either directly or indirectly benefited, and so many people who talk to each other give references, and share preferences for experiences that are well optimized.
Absolutely, yes. Because all of these things have flip sides. For every time I get on social media and criticize a brand for not getting it right, I will do the same for ones that are getting it right. And I will recommend to other people, use this brand, use this product, because really great experience. So all these things, they work in both ways. You can take advantage of them and maximize, what you get from them, or you can just lose out pretty much every which way.
Absolutely. It's been lovely having you with us for this insightful conversation. I'm sure everyone attending has been left with some or the other substantial takeaways. Thank you once again for this chat, Léonie.
I hope so. And thank you again for inviting me. It's a great event to be part of.
Absolutely. With that, we wrap up this keynote. Folks, please don't miss out on an action-packed day with many more insightful sessions.